Motherboard. The motherboard is a large, flat circuit board filled with many electronic paths and connection points where you plug in all the other pieces of the computer. It is rightly called the heart of the computer because it controls the flow of electrical power and allows the signals, or data, to connect every single component in the machine. A key consideration is the board's form factor, size, with ATX 305mm by 244mm being the most common standard, while smaller boards like Mini-ITX 170mm by 170mm are used for compact builds. Despite being arguably the most important piece, the motherboard is usually much cheaper than the rest of the high-performance parts. Central Processing Unit, CPU. The Central Processing Unit, often simply called the processor, is a small square chip that sits on the motherboard, usually covered by a fan or heatsink to keep it cool. It is often referred to as the brain of the computer because it handles every single calculation and instruction necessary to make everything work very quickly. For example, when you type something and the words appear on the screen, when you open a program, or when you are simply browsing the internet, it is all the CPU's job. Modern CPUs achieve this by using a large number of cores, individual processing units, and threads, which allow a single core to handle two tasks concurrently. They also rely on a tiny superfast memory called cache, L1, L2, and L3, built directly into the chip to speed up data access. Despite its tiny size, the CPU is one of the most expensive and powerful parts of a computer. Graphics card. The graphics card, also known as the GPU, is a rectangular board containing a large chip in the center, typically covered by a fan to keep it cool. Unlike the CPU, the graphics card is specifically designed to handle the visual output and creation of images and video. This is essential when you play video games, perform video editing, or do 3D rendering. The GPU uses hundreds or even thousands of less powerful specialized cores, such as CUDA cores in NVIDIA cards, that work simultaneously or in parallel, which makes them excellent for complex visual tasks. Think of the CPU like the logical thinker who directs the project, and the GPU as the artistic painter who handles the detailed visual workload. It is one of the most expensive components of a computer. However, there is another option that is relatively cheaper called integrated graphics, or iGPU. Unlike a dedicated graphics card, the iGPU is built directly into the CPU chip itself and shares the processor's power and memory. This makes it cost-efficient but often results in weaker performance. Therefore, when you play heavy games, you have to use lower graphics settings to avoid lagging. Hard drive. The hard drive, HDD, is a box-shaped metal device that serves as the permanent storage for all the computer's data. This includes the operating system, all your programs, and personal files like photos and videos. Inside older hard drives, there is a spinning magnetic disk and a tiny moving arm that reads and writes the information. The hard drive is capable of holding lots of data, but it is very slow at accessing that data, reaching speeds of only about 100 to 150 megabytes per second because it flows through a small wire. Furthermore, it does not always provide the correct information quickly enough, which is why we need RAM to manage this process.
RAM, or random access memory, is a thin, rectangular stick that plugs directly into the motherboard. It only stores specific data from the hard drive that the CPU needs to access more quickly for current tasks. The latest memory standard is DDR5, which offers roughly 1.5 times faster performance than the previous DDR4 standard. To make it simple, imagine the hard drive is a garage full of various items, and the RAM is your tool bag. Since you have so many scattered things in your garage, it is going to take some time to search and grab the specific tools you need. But if you store them inside your tool bag, you cannot store as much, but you can grab the things you need real quick without having to go back and forth just to get the things you need. That is how RAM works. But one thing you need to remember: unlike a hard drive, which stores data permanently, RAM is short-term memory that clears everything once the computer is turned off.
The solid-state drive, SSD, has the same purpose as a hard drive, but it is much faster and more durable because it does not use a spinning disk and moving parts. Instead, it relies on memory chips to store information electronically. These standard SATA SSDs can access data at speeds up to 550 megabytes per second, which is significantly faster than an HDD. Even faster are NVMe SSDs, which use the PCIe lanes to connect directly to the CPU, reaching speeds up to 7,000 megabytes per second. In some computers, the SSD is used alongside the hard drive, or it can be the SSD alone. It is more expensive than a hard drive, but it has become the industry standard due to its superior speed and reliability. Cooling fan. Some internal areas, especially the CPU, can get very hot, so we need a cooling fan. It is usually attached directly to the processor or placed inside the case to push out hot air and bring in cool air. This is necessary because if a component reaches a critical temperature, usually above 95 degrees Celsius, it will automatically slow down, thermal throttling, to prevent the computer from suffering physical damage. Some high-performance setups use liquid cooling as an upgrade for better heat management. Power Supply Unit, PSU. The Power Supply Unit, PSU, is a rectangular box that takes the standard electricity from your wall outlet and converts it into the appropriate voltage to power the other computer components we have talked about. It is rated by the amount of power it can provide, wattage, and its efficiency. For your information, laptops have a power supply as well, despite also having a battery inside it as a portable power source. Wireless card. The wireless card is a small component that allows a computer to connect to Wi-Fi networks without the need for a physical Ethernet cable. If a computer does not have a wireless card, it can only connect to the internet through a wired Ethernet connection. Most modern desktops and almost all laptops include a high-speed Wi-Fi standard like Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 7 on the motherboard. Case. The case is the outer shell of the computer that houses and protects all the components we talked about. The case also plays an important role in cooling as it has vents or openings to allow airflow and help cool the components. The size of the case must match the size of the motherboard. A mid-tower case fits the common ATX motherboard. Also, there are different sizes and styles of cases, from compact ones for small builds to larger ones for gaming or high-performance PCs. For over 20 years, I've lived and breathed this technology. On the Verified Explainer, I put that practical experience to work, spending the extra time to properly research, verify, and simplify complex topics for you, cutting through the myths to deliver the facts. If you appreciate the effort and experience that goes into every single video, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a verified truth. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon with another verified truth, so stay tuned.